Chapter 1070, Tu Qin Qigong. Zhang Yi was not impressed by Xu Jiang's pity, because Xu Jiang deserved it. But now, he still needed someone like Xu Jiang to serve him. So he would not break up with Xu Jiang. However, Zhang Yi also had some concerns. That was Yuan Kongya's clone, Xu Yu. He crossed his arms, stared at Xu Jiang and asked, "How is your baby Xu Yu now? I'm curious about her, after all. I killed her back then." To this day, Zhang Yi still has a strong fear of Yuan Kongya. Yuan Kongya's ability is too terrifying, and he can grow almost unlimited. The practice of directly plundering others' abilities and strengthening oneself is too terrifying. Moreover, Zhou Kuer and Yang Xia, who are beside Zhang Yi, both have awakened their abilities through Bingpa. He doesn't know if Xu Yu's ability will affect them. When Xu Yu was mentioned, Xu Jiang's eyes paused. "Don't worry, the clone is completely different from the original. She is my goddaughter now. No matter how many grievances you had in the past, it has nothing to do with her." Zhang Yi stared at Xu Jiang. "So she is now Ypsilon?" Zhang Yi thought not. If Xu Jiang had an Ypsilon in his hand, his attitude toward Zhang Yi would not be so low. Sure enough, Xu Jiang sighed lightly. After all, the clone is just a clone and cannot achieve the effect of the original. We have tried many times, but we can't let her break through to Ypsilon. He and Zhang Yi made some explanations. Bingpa is actually the reproductive cell of Yuan Kongya. Because of this, Yuan Kongya, as the mother, can control the aliens who have merged with Bingpa and absorb their power. Xu Yu is cloned using Bingpa, and she only has half of Yuan Kongya's genes in her body. Naturally, her power cannot be completely the same as Yuan Kongya. Therefore, it is better to say that Xu Yu is Yuan Kongya's child than to say that she is a clone. Zhang Yi heard this and suddenly asked curiously, "Who is her father? Since you want to create the strongest alien, you must not be careless about the selection of the father." Xu Jiang smiled and said, "I have to keep this a secret. After all, it's not easy for me to tell others about this kind of thing." Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, and the figures of several male captains such as Deng Shintong and Lu Huang appeared in his mind. He even wondered if Xu Jiang, an old hand, would use his genes for experiments. But after thinking about it carefully, Xu Jiang would not be stupid enough to joke about such things. It doesn't matter who Xu Yu's father is. After all, she is just a test subject of the military and a weapon on Earth. Xu Jiang showed his sincerity. "Zhang Yi, you have always been my most optimistic alien. I hope that we can continue to cooperate in good faith in the future and jointly maintain the stability and peace of the Jiangnan region." Zhang Yi took a deep look at Xu Jiang and then said with a smile, "This is indeed negotiable. But I want to meet Xu Yu." He was still not very confident about the girl because of the great oppression that Yuan Kongya had brought to him. It's not that he believes everything Xu Jiang says. Xu Jiang thought about it and nodded to agree to Zhang Yi's request. "Very good. Then when will you come?" "The day after tomorrow. I'll be there the day after tomorrow." "Okay." The two ended the call. Xu Jiang leaned back in his chair and rubbed his brows hard. This time he made a wrong bet. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to suddenly emerge and fight his way out of the heavy pressure. But this is also an opportunity for him. His relationship with Zhang Yi is very delicate, but at least the Jiangnan district also has its own Ypsilon. In the future, other forces will be more or less timid because of this. And forces such as the Corrosion Moon or the Tianlong pirates will never dare to invade the territory of the Jiangnan district again. But next, he will need to bleed heavily. At the very least, he must take out half of the resources of the entire Blizzard City. One part is used to win over Zhang Yi, and the other part is used to compensate the East China Sea district and obtain their forgiveness. Xu Jiang didn't have time to think about how to arrange for Zhang Yi to come tomorrow. Another message came from the communicator. Li Guangxiao, the supreme commander of the East China Sea district, called. Xu Jiang smiled bitterly, quickly adjusted his expression, and waited to meet Li Guangxiao's storm. In the past few days, he and Li Guangxiao had talked on the phone more than a dozen times. Li Guangxiao was really angry. He was played with by others, resulting in the loss of troops and the execution of the chief of operations in public. The hot-tempered supreme commander of the East China Sea region certainly couldn't stand it. If it weren't for the fact that Xuanwu and others were seriously injured, and Zhang Yi had become Ypsilon, he would have wanted to dispatch troops to attack Tianhai City. Xu Jiang had no choice but to persuade him kindly and promise to give him enough compensation. There was another tug-of-war between the two because of this matter. Li Guangxiao, who seemed angry, actually wanted to get more compensation. Emotions are just seasonings, and interests are the real purpose. He can't really do anything to Zhang Yi of the Ypsilon class, so he can only get some compensation from Xu Jiang. Moreover, according to the situation of the battle on Qingdao, the joining of the joint forces originally made their chances of winning slim. In addition, Colombia's hull chain was more seriously damaged and, relatively speaking, the pressure on the East China Sea region at sea was reduced a lot. In short, the game of interests between the top leaders cannot only look at the surface. No matter how much you pull, you still have to see how much money you can pay in the end, so that the past grievances can be written off. However, after dealing with the East China Sea region, bigger problems also came. Xu Jiang received a call from Qin Shigong, the supreme commander of the Xinjiang region in the far north. Facing Qin Shigong, Xu Jiang's heart was much calmer. In name, the Xinjiang region is the commander-in-chief of the 6 regions. But this operation was a joint operation of the Jiangnan region and the East China Sea region, and did not damage the interests of the Xinjiang region. At most, Qin Shigong could only say that they did not inform Xinjiang. But Xu Jiang did not expect that Qin Shigong's call was not to accuse the 2 major districts of concealing the truth. He just said to Xu Jiang in a serious tone, "This time, you are in big trouble." Xu Jiang was stunned for a moment. "What trouble?" Qin Shigong was silent for a moment and said slowly, "I told you at the beginning that although the source of God is powerful, it also contains huge dangers and secrets. If you find it, you must notify Xinjiang. You did not listen to the advice and acted on your own. I think you have released a very terrifying existence." Xu Jiang heard this, and immediately thought of the strange humanoid creature with black armor that appeared from the abyss of the fog valley reported by Jingwei. He swallowed his saliva. What on earth is that? Chapter 1073, Enhanced Abilities. Qin Shigong paused for a few seconds. Then he said to Xu Jiang, "We don't know what it is. But I can tell you that we found the source of God from the Qinling dragon vein, but that place has now become a completely restricted area. Until now, we haven't dealt with the trouble there. Where the source of God appears, there is great terror. Don't touch it casually." Xu Jiang narrowed his eyes, pondered for a long time, and then said leisurely, "Well, I understand. But fortunately, the place where the source of God was found this time is overseas. Even if there is danger, it does not involve the mainland of Huaxiu." Qin Shigong said, "I heard that chaos in your region has obtained the source of God. Now he is an Ypsilon-level alien." Xu Jiang said, "Yes, it's him." Qin Shigong said, "This is also good. You really need to replenish your combat power." The call ended here. Qin Shigong did not continue to ask about the details of the mission, nor did he hold the Jiangnan region and the East China Sea region responsible for not reporting. By now, everyone knows it tacitly, and everyone is eager to improve their own strength. Xu Jiang sneered at Qin Shigong's words and didn't take them to heart. "No matter how terrible it is, your Xinjiang district has also gained huge benefits from the discovery of the Qinling Mountains. Why can you do it, but we can't? If I'm really scared because of your words, I'm not Xu Jiang." Zhang Yi planned to go to Blizzard City tomorrow. He wanted to see what Zhu Yu looked like with his own eyes, so as to get rid of a knot in his heart. At this time, everyone in the family was busy absorbing source elves and then improving their ability index. Zhang Yi didn't call anyone, but began to prepare equipment carefully. He was very careful on this trip to Blizzard City. Although the probability was not high, he had to avoid Xu Jiang playing tricks on him. If Xu Yu had already arrived in Ypsilon, the risk of Xu Jiang wanting to get rid of him could not be completely ruled out. After the end of the world, Zhang Yi was able to survive until now, all thanks to his caution and pessimistic thinking of not trusting anyone. At night, Zhou Ke and Yang Xie came to Zhang Yi's room to chat with him. After absorbing the source spirit, the strength of both of them was enhanced. As auxiliary aliens, they did not need to deliberately exercise anything as long as the range of their abilities was enhanced. Zhang Yi, I now have a new ability. Come and try it. Zhou Ke, wearing a blue velvet pajamas, knelt on the bed and patted her strong thighs with a smile on her face. She practiced yoga every day and often played ball with Yang Xie and others, so her body proportions were very well proportioned. She was neither fat nor thin, and the ratio of fat and muscle was just right. Because Zhang Yi liked a slightly fat figure, she also deliberately used the ability of Doctor to adjust her fat ratio. Zhang Yi lay on her thighs, enjoying the soft and warm knee pillow. Oh, it looks like there is a surprise, Zhang Yi said with a smile. Zhou Ke stretched out her slender jade hand, placed it on Zhang Yi's head, and began to massage gently. A magical thing happened. When her hand stroked Zhang Yi's head, Zhang Yi felt that his tense emotions were relaxed. He was a pessimist, so he always liked to consider the possibilities of many things. It was rare for him to be able to relax his mind on weekdays. Zhou Ke's hands pressed on his head and moved slowly on his scalp, which made him forget all his troubles for a short time, and he felt as happy as flying on the clouds. This is an ability I have developed specifically for you, Zhou Ke whispered softly. It's called dopamine sustained release, which can help you relax. Zhang Yi, you are too tired on weekdays, and you need to relax occasionally. This will be of great help to your body and mind. Zhang Yi said and didn't want to say a word of comfort, just wanting to immerse himself in this comfort. Zhou Ke's hands were shining with a white and soft light, moving slowly from his head to his body. The negative substances accumulated in Zhang Yi's body were dispersed. Some negative substances that Zhang Yi himself didn't even notice were also completely eliminated. When Zhang Yi was not at home, everyone was working hard to improve their abilities so that they would not drag Zhang Yi down. As a doctor, Zhou Ke was also thinking about what she could do for Zhang Yi when she couldn't go to the battlefield. This special massage method can completely relax Zhang Yi's body and mind and restore his physical condition to the most perfect state. There are even some special auxiliary abilities for men, which will be verified later. Although it cannot make an ordinary person's body become a Superman, it can definitely make a person's body reach the best condition. This kind of thing seems to be just an auxiliary ability, but it actually has a very big effect. Because people like Zhang Yi often go out to perform high-intensity tasks, whether it is mental pressure or hidden injuries in the body, it is not easy to be discovered. It will become a big problem over time, or it will break out when you are older. It is not easy for Zhou Ke to do this, and it requires very delicate control of her abilities. But seeing Zhang Yi's, when she relaxes her face like a baby, she will smile knowingly. Seeing this, Yang Xie reached out to take out the snacks she made, then picked them up with 2 fingers and put them to Zhang Yi's mouth. Zhang Yi, this is the pastry I just learned to make recently. Try it. Zhang Yi opened his mouth and put the pastry into his mouth. It was soft and sticky. He ate the pastry into his stomach and couldn't help but admire. Xie, your craftsmanship is getting better and better now. Yang Xie's eyes narrowed into a line when she smiled. It's good that you like it. Then I will learn some new tricks in the future and try to make you eat different things every day. Being able to get Zhang Yi's approval is her greatest happiness. Yang Xie is the typical little girl. After the end of the world, she can't do anything else, so she puts all her thoughts on Zhang Yi. It feels like the husband is the backbone of the wife. But she never gets tired of it. It's not that she is not motivated and only depends on men. It's that everyone has different abilities, so you have to know where your advantages are and then use them reasonably. As it is now, she and Zhou Jaime feel that their lives are very happy. A woman who acts like a spoiled child has the best life. This truth may be difficult for a woman with a straightforward temperament like Leong Yu to understand. There was no conversation that night, which was long and long. The 3 people who had not seen each other for a long time had many things they wanted to communicate, and they said everything without saying it. Chapter 1074 Weapon Issues. The next day, Zhang Yi got up from the bed refreshed. He came to Lu Karen's studio and handed all his weapons and equipment to her. Karen, my weapons can't keep up with my strength now. Is there any way to improve it? After becoming an Epsilon-level alien, the power of firearms is not enough. For Zhang Yi, it has become a useless means, tasteless to eat and a pity to throw away. When facing lower-level aliens, it can be used to clean up the small fish. But when encountering stronger aliens, even for Yassine Canero, who is close to Epsilon, the current weapons cannot exert his true strength. Lu Karen has a black sweat-absorbing belt tied on his head and is cutting the core material separated from the battleship. The wheat-colored skin is covered with fine beads of sweat. Seeing the guns Zhang Yi sent back, she said helplessly, "Brother, the mechanical field is not omnipotent. This kind of old-fashioned weapon has great limitations in its own ability. The bullet is solid metal, relying on the propulsion of gunpowder to obtain huge kinetic energy and then kill the opponent. Before, your ability could accelerate bullets and cause greater destructive power. But now, your power is no longer something that ordinary bullets can bear. And the gunpowder-propelled firing method also has its limits." Zhang Yi touched his chin. "I know. But when I was on the battlefield, I met a guy with a revolver. He seemed to be able to compress his superpowers into bullets and then shoot them out. So I was wondering, can you do this?" Lu Karen raised her head. She crossed her arms and thought seriously. When it comes to advanced mechanical technology, she is always particularly focused. Is that so? If we analyze it from the perspective of materials, I think adamantium is the best material because it is the toughest material known in the world. If we can rebuild firearms with adamantium, it is indeed possible. But the most important thing is to solve the problem of bullets. To use superpowers as bullets, we must have a strong enough carrier. I have heard of this technology, but I have never had the opportunity to come into contact with it. The only way to get this technology is through the military. Zhang Yi thought about it. Adamantium and advanced weapon technology. I understand. When I go to Blizzard City tomorrow, I will ask Lao Zhu to give it to me. As long as there is a way, it will be fine. He also wanted the gold broom revolver that Billy the Kid had. After all, without a handy weapon, his ability would be greatly reduced, at least in terms of long-range attacks. When Zhang Yi chatted with Lu Karen, his eyes swept through her studio. "By the way, how is your recent research on mecha going? I am looking forward to it." When mentioning this, Lu Karen's eyes suddenly lit up with a brilliant light. "Brother Zhang Yi, I have already drawn the composition. Well, large mechas are difficult to realize now. After all, the main function mode is still fossil fuels. In extreme cold, power consumption will be greatly increased, so it is no problem to make large mechas, but the cost performance is too low. So, my goal is to create a human exoskeleton, combining the concept of combat uniforms, adding the function of exoskeleton armor." Lu Kuoran clenched his fists excitedly and looked up at Zhang Yi. In this way, even if people do not have strong combat power, as long as they can control the armor well, they can have power no less than that of aliens. Zhang Yi blinked his eyes and had some expectations in his heart. "The thing you are talking about is similar to Iron Man's armor, right?" Lu Kuoran scratched his head. "It's not that exaggerated. After all, it is impossible to condense the reactor on a small generator on the chest now. But with my ability, I can give it more unexpected abilities. Hee brother, just look forward to it." Lu Kuoran put his hands behind his back and smiled mysteriously. Zhang Yi couldn't help laughing. "Okay, I've been looking forward to Sister Kuoran's masterpiece." After returning from Wugu, Zhang Yi has been working hard to help people around him improve their strength. He does not expect to build a strong team. After all, high-level aliens, in addition to sufficient talent, also need a huge amount of resources to accumulate. He just hopes that the people at home can have more self-protection ability. One day in the future, if something unexpected happens in Tianhai City and Zhang Yi can't protect them all the time, they can have a little more hope of survival. And Lu Kuoran's mecha is actually the fastest way for ordinary people or aliens with low talent to improve their combat effectiveness. Zhang Yi reached out and picked up a piece of silver metal from the table casually, and then looked at Lu Kuoran seriously. "So, How is your research on the source of God? Zhang Yi did not use all the source of God he got at the beginning and left a little bit. He was very curious about this mysterious power and wanted to know what it was. So he gave this fragment of the source of God to Lu Kuoran and asked her to study its composition. Lu Kuoran frowned, and his expression became a little more serious. That thing is amazing, a kind of material. I may have to spend more time studying it. Zhang Yi left Lu Kuoran's studio and walked towards the living room when he suddenly saw Leong Yu coming up from the underground training ground. She was wearing a sports suit and her hair was wet, probably because she had just taken a shower. Leong Yu is a workout fanatic. As the martial arts master of Huashu country, her martial arts value is ridiculously high, and this is not just because of her extraordinary talent. It is also because she has spent a lot of time practicing every day since she could walk. Even after coming to the comfortable shelter, she still keeps the habit of getting up at 5 o'clock every morning to practice martial arts. The two bumped into each other. Leong Yu's eyes opened slightly, and she looked at Zhang Yi as if she thought of something. A blush appeared on her face, and then she lowered her head and said, "Morning." Zhang Yi looked at her curiously. "Morning. But why are you blushing?" Leong Yu curled her lips. "Refreshing." Zhang Yi clapped his hands. "Good, good, good. Today he will go to Blizzard City to meet Xu Yu and discuss the conditions for future cooperation with Xu Jiang." However, since it was still daytime, he called Leong Yu to the living room to chat with her. Today, Huahua's ability index has reached an extremely high level. Although it has not been evaluated by a professional organization, according to Zhang Yi's experience, it should be above 9,800. That's right, after using the source of God, its life level has made a huge leap. In addition, Zhang Yi's cramming method of supplementing it with the essence of high-level aliens has rapidly increased its strength to a terrifying level. It can be said that in the current Jiangnan region, Huahua's strength is enough to beat most of the aliens, including other captain-level aliens. However, Zhang Yi still has great expectations for Leong Yu. In his opinion, with Leong Yu's foundation, as long as she continues to grow, it will not be too far away to reach the level of Cardiels. As for whether she will get a second magical substance like the source of God in the future, Zhang Yi will not think too much about this unpredictable thing. Chapter 1075 Happiness First. Leong Yu has absorbed all the source spirits that Zhang Yi brought back for her. The energy in her body has been greatly improved, but this improvement will not be reflected in her combat power so quickly. She needs to spend time to integrate her strength into training, adapt herself to this new power, and then she can become stronger. However, as the most talented strengthening person in Zhang Yi's team, Zhang Yi does not need to worry about Leong Yu's practice at all. Sometimes, he even feels that Leong Yu has worked too hard and spends most of her time practicing all day long. Soon, your strength should reach the captain level. You will be the most powerful person in Tianhai City except me. You have to help me share the responsibility of protecting this home, Zhang Yi said to Leong Yu with a smile. He deliberately concealed Huahua. After all, Zhang Yi gave Huahua the source of God, and he did not want it to become a knot in Leong Yu's heart. Leong Yu gathered her hair and looked at Zhang Yi with big eyes. She is not the type of beauty like Zhou Qier and Yang Xia. Judging from her face is more resolute than those two people, especially when fighting. There is a sense of killing. However, Leong Yu is a woman who is very attractive. Her independent temperament makes even Zhang Yi respect her from the bottom of his heart. Of course, even if you don't say it, I will do my best to protect everyone. She paused, lowered her head and whispered, I also hope to help you. Don't always watch you take risks alone like now. A warm feeling surged in Zhang Yi's heart. His eyes became gentle, and he reached out and touched her warm cheek. Leong Yu's body was warm after just exercising. I'm glad you have this intention. Don't worry, I will definitely take you with me next time if there is anything. It's not that Zhang Yi didn't take Leong Yu and other family members with him on the trip to Qingdao. It was really because the level of that mission was too high, and the captain-level characters might become cannon fodder. Leong Yu's face was quickly stained with a blush, and it was red behind her ears. Are you going to Blizzard City today? She suddenly stared at Zhang Ian asked. Zhang Yi nodded. Yes, I have to go there to deal with some things. And meet some people I want to see, Leong Yu said, but it's still early. Do you want to come over? We haven't practiced together for a long time. Leong Yu's room was not far from Zhang Yi. She didn't get a good rest last night. Sometimes she practiced hard, maybe not because of love, but because there was too much energy and no place to vent. Leong Yu is 27 years old this year, which is the best time for women, and it is also the time of spring. The maternal instinct makes her eager to get some love from the opposite sex. Zhang Yi felt his lips were a little dry. He picked up a glass of water from the table and drank it. Indeed, we haven't practiced together for a long time. Why don't we learn from each other? Recently, I feel that my kung fu has improved a lot. Leong Yu pursed her lips and looked at him with big eyes. Then we have to try to know. An hour later, Zhang Yi walked out of the underground martial arts training ground. It was still early. On weekdays, everyone had the habit of sleeping in, so no one else got up. But when he came to the living room, he heard the sound of the TV. Looking closely, it turned out to be Fatty Xu sitting on the sofa, with his legs crossed. The screen was stuck on the pause interface of the game. He put one arm on the sofa, his eyebrows trembled like two caterpillars, and looked at Zhang Yi with an ambiguous face. Boss, you got up really early. Zhang Yi coughed. Yes, I got up early to exercise for a while. The expression on Fatty Xu's face gradually twisted. Did you exercise with Teacher Liang? Zhang Yi looked indifferent and asked back. Teacher Liang and I are master and apprentice. She has always taught me martial arts. Isn't this a very normal thing? Seeing that Zhang Yi was still stubborn, Fatty Xu couldn't help but said, Yang Gua and Long Yu are also master and apprentice, and they got together. Boss, I saw it all. Don't play tricks. Zhang Yi turned his head and looked at Fatty Xu, expressionless. Fatty Xu suddenly felt a chill on his fat neck. He swallowed his saliva. Actually, I was just guessing. I didn't see anything. Zhang Yi walked over with a sneer and slapped him on the head. Damn it. What did you see? Fatty Xu covered his head with tears in his eyes. Woo-woo, boss. I just want you to take me to Blizzard City. You don't have to hit me, right? Zhang Yi casually took out a towel and wiped the oil off his hands. Fatty Xu seemed to have gained some weight recently, and he slapped him, making his hands greasy. Fatty Xu, be restrained. Be careful that one day you don't die on the battlefield, but fall to the hands of the technicians in Blizzard City. Fatty Xu said unconvincedly. What are you afraid of? I was so powerful back then and didn't die. Instead, I awakened my superpowers. I think I am a natural great sword saint. Zhang Yi turned over. He rolled his eyes and was too lazy to listen to his nonsense. But thinking about it carefully, it was indeed not easy for Fatty Xu. When he was not at home, he did not dare to go out easily. I think it was very hard for the past half-month. So Zhang Yi said, Okay, then you will go with me this time. Fatty Xu jumped up from the sofa happily. Boss, I know you are the best to me. Don't worry. I will keep your affairs with Teacher Liang confidential. Zhang Yi sneered. Secret? What's secret? Why should I explain to others what I have done in my life? The relationship between him and Leong Yu has slowly broken through over time. In the end times, the world is out of balance, and everyone is confused about tomorrow and the future. All they think about is to enjoy themselves in time. Therefore, the views on some traditional concepts have long become indifferent. It's just that the change in this relationship is not easy to say due to some force majeure. Zhang Yi saw that it was still early and was not in a hurry to eat, so he sat on the sofa and played games with Fatty Xu. Hey, Fatty Xu. To be honest, don't you really want to find a partner? Zhang Yi asked Fatty Xu casually while playing games. Fatty Xu said nonchalantly, Brother, I've said this so many times. I don't believe in love anymore. He suddenly seemed to think of something, and a sweet expression appeared on his face. On the contrary, every time I go to the entertainment center in Blizzard City, the masseurs there will gently care about my life and soothe my mind and body. I think they are the ones who really understand me. Even if it's fake, I'm very happy. As long as people can be happy, there's nothing wrong with living in lies all their lives. Chapter 1076, Grand Welcome. After hearing what Fatty Su said, Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows and said nothing more. He still agreed with Fatty Su's theory. The only difference between Zhang Yi and Fatty Su is that he believes in the existence of love. But a long time ago, he no longer thought that such a thing would appear around him. If it weren't for the arrival of the end of the world, he would probably not have any emotional or physical intersection with women in his life. And because of the difficult external environment, they gathered together and comforted each other. Can the feelings generated be called love? This is not important, and Zhang Yi doesn't care much. He has always been a person who only considers the results. At least now they live together very comfortably, which is enough. After lunch, Zhang Yi slowly took Fatty Su to Blizzard City. Before leaving, he once again carefully checked all the weapons and equipment on his body. Although Bai Xiao and Lei Ji could not exert his full current strength, the composite bow he got from Baljia was very good. In addition, his royal cat Huahuan naturally had to be brought along. Fatty Su asked curiously, "Boss, with your current strength, who among those rookies in Blizzard City can be your opponent? Is it necessary to be so careful?" Zhang Yi said calmly, "Even if there is only a 1 in 10,000 chance, we must be on guard against Xu Jiang and me turning against each other." He did not trust anyone. Fatty Su was shocked. His expression suddenly became serious. He held his chin with one hand and muttered to himself, "Yes, when I went to Blizzard City for a massage before, did they do anything to me secretly? Oh, the more I think about it, the scarier it gets." Fatty Su shuddered. He felt that some things should not be thought about in detail. When he thought about it, he felt that there were dangers everywhere around him. "I'd better hold on to your thighs obediently in the future." Fatty Su approached Zhang Yi and said. Zhang Yi kicked his butt in annoyance. "Get in the car." Fatty Su drove the car. Zhang Yi sat in the back seat, and Huahua sat cross-legged on his knees. Then they set off for Xiamayashan subway station. Soon after, the special train arranged by Blizzard City went all the way to Blizzard City. In fact, for Zhang Yi, it would be faster if he used the ability of Space Shuttle. Now, his Space Shuttle range has been increased to 3 kilometers, and it will take less than a few minutes to reach these hundreds of kilometers. But he doesn't like to use his ability casually, because that might expose his true colors and allow others to calculate his ability data. So Zhang Yi and his partner took the underground special train for more than an hour and arrived at Blizzard City. Zhang Yi was not worried about sudden attacks. Tracing of all things combines the ability of Time Echo and has both active and passive abilities. When he unconsciously targets someone or something, it will automatically detect danger for Zhang Yi. Only when he actively activates his ability can he predict the activity trajectory of someone or something within the next 2 seconds. Swish! After the special train arrived at the station, the door made a familiar steam sound and then opened quickly. Zhang Yi looked outside the door. The Blizzard City subway station, which was always deserted, was now densely packed with people. At a glance, hundreds of people were standing there, lined up in rows, and everywhere was decorated with lights and colorful lanterns, which looked as festive and lively as the new year. Someone in the back held up more than a dozen banners, which basically said, "Warmly welcome Captain Hun Dun to return to Qingdao. Salute the great hero of Huasu country, the guardian of Jiangnan region, and the supreme captain of Tengu squad, Hun Dun." This scene made Zhang Yi's memory a little hazy. The last time he saw such a grand scene was when he first met Gao Chongkong, who had returned from an expedition to the mutant beast tribe of Biting Lake. And this time, the scene was much grander than that time. The main reason was that the people who came to greet him were all high-level officials at all levels in the entire Blizzard City, including Deng Shintong and Ling Hu Feishue, the 2 investigation captains. As for Lu Huang and Jingwei, one was seriously injured and had not recovered, and the other was a dark guard, which was not suitable for appearing in public, so he did not show up. Zhang Yi's old friend Bailey Chongqing and the members of the Tengu squad also appeared here. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly, thinking, "Old Xu is really thoughtful." Although he was not very touched, old Zhu's sincerity was still full. Fatty Xu behind Zhang Yi looked at the scene, frightened, and swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva nervously. He muttered to himself, I just came here for a foot massage. Do they need to be so grand? It seems that the economy of Blizzard City is not very prosperous now. Zhang Yi carried Huahua on his shoulders and walked out slowly. Fatty Xu also hurriedly followed Zhang Yi. Xu Jiang was wearing a brown military coat, with his gray hair combed neatly, and walked over with a smile. Captain Chaos, you are finally here. Do you know that all of us are waiting for the arrival of you, the great hero? Zhang Yi shook hands with Xu Jiang. Old Xu was worthy of being a soldier, and his right hand was vigorous and powerful. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. How dare I? This operation is the result of everyone's concerted efforts. All glory belongs to Blizzard. The city belongs to the organization. My personal contribution is insignificant. Xu Jiang said to Zhang Yi in a reproachful manner. Look at you, so modest. At this time, a group of beautiful girls ran out from the back, holding flowers in their hands, shouting Zhang Yi's name, and rushed over. These girls are all very beautiful, and there are even a few more outstanding ones, whose appearance can be compared with Zhou Ke, Yang Xia, and others. However, Zhang Yi also quickly understood their identities. He glanced at Fatty Xu. It's your turn. When Fatty Xu saw these beautiful girls, his eyes were already straight. Seeing Zhang Yi so loyal, 2 streams of white smoke came out of his nose with excitement, and the corners of his mouth were almost grinning to the back of his ears. He walked over. Haha, thank you all for welcoming me so warmly. Come on, don't be anxious. Everyone line up, you can take pictures, and give me all the flowers. Xu Jiang raised his eyebrows when he saw this scene. According to the information he got, there were many beautiful women in Zhang Yi's shelter. So, he wanted to capture Zhang Yi from this direction. Therefore, the women selected this time were all famous movie stars or top models. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yi's determination was so strong. He thought more highly of Zhang Yi in his heart, but he was also quite regretful. But since the people were arranged, it would be good to have a good relationship with the people around Zhang Yi, so he just let Fatty Xu go. Dear viewers, stay tuned for more videos. Thanks, please subscribe if not already and comment what you think about Zhang Yi and teacher Leong Yu.